Well, last week we gave a car away to Myrna Hardy of Quesnel, BC, and tonight Richard Hogan of Delta, BC. You could win a 2010 Nissan Rogue if a kickoff is returned for a touchdown in tonight's game, thanks to Safeway's Touchdown to Win promotion. And if a second kickoff is returned, you could win $1 million. Let's take it to Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton. Here are Chris Cuthbert and Glenn Suter.
Thank you, Dave. The Eskimos try to maintain their newfound momentum, and the Argos try to get theirs back. It's Toronto and Edmonton tonight at Commonwealth. An overcast evening, and thunderstorms in the forecast for the second consecutive week.
Ricky Ray completing 70% of his passes in the last 3 games. The most important stat for him and his team, though, their first win of the season last week versus the BC Lions. Cleo Lemon coming off a game against Montreal where he threw for 143 yards, a season low. But he has the confidence of his coach and his team.
Yes, Jim Barker's team saw an abrupt end to their 3-game win streak last week in Montreal. Richie Hall's team finally got in the win column, and we're underway. First meeting of the year between these two teams. The other will be in Moncton, New Brunswick, as the return by Ryan Christian will give Cleo Lemon decent field position up across the 40-yard line. And he has the confidence of his coach, even with some questions about when Cleo Lemon's going to break out.
Well, the bottom line for Cleo Lemon is that the football team sits at 3-2 in second place in the Eastern Division. So that's the stat that Jim Barker emphasized, even though the media were inquiring as to whether or not we may see Dalton Bell.
Double blue start at the 41, and a little toss back, and Lemon has Brandon Rideau. Little flash and dash from the Argos on the pitch back from Corey Boyd.
Very similar to a play last week in Montreal that Brandon Rideau came across the middle of the formation and ends up on the other side. A little fake. Corey Boyd, everyone keying on the run here to start this game. You know the Edmonton Eskimos are, so they give it to him. He pitches it back to Cleo Lemon, and they find Brandon Rideau.
36 yards, that's just the 4th play of 30 yards or more for the Argos through the air this year. And now Boyd straight ahead, and he gives you a glimpse of what he's been doing all season long, pounding it straight ahead.
And his 25th birthday today. So happy birthday to Corey Boyd. There's one change in the receivers and running backs for the Argos. That's Spencer Watt starting at wide receiver for Chad Lucas. And in the offensive line, Chris Van Zyl back at right tackle for Shannon Boatman.
8 for the leading rusher in the league, 2nd and 2. Back in his hands, he'll try the left side and get stacked up for a loss. Larry Burdine in the starting lineup for the first time for the Eskimos at defensive end, helped pin Boyd behind the line of scrimmage.
Well, you know that front 7, and there have been some changes. Kai Ellis out of the lineup in the front 7 for the Edmonton Eskimos, but they've been told all week that the leading rusher in the Canadian Football League is coming to town. It's number 3, Corey Boyd, and they do a nice job on 2nd down here to limit the game.
So the rookie Grant Shaw, who was an Edmonton Husky, played junior football here, sold 50-50 tickets at Commonwealth. Might be a little nervous, and he does put that through. So Grant Shaw gives the Argos a quick 3-0 lead, and the Argos are 3-0 when scoring first this season.
Well, Ricky Ray mentioned completing 70% of his passes in the last 3 games. Just one win to show for it, but a big one. A big one last week against the BC Lions after an 0-4 start for these Edmonton Eskimos. Ricky Ray, 3 out of the 5 games this season has been over 300, and there's last week's numbers. 360 yards, 2 touchdowns. He got some big plays out of his receivers, and they didn't come up with that mistake that has cost them throughout the start of this season at the wrong time.
So it'll be interesting to see how Ricky Ray handles this Argo defense tonight, one that has given him trouble in the past. The Argos have won 8 of the last 12 meetings between these two teams, although Edmonton did sweep the season series last year. And the Eskimos will accept the kickoff from Jamie Borum, and glad to have Skylar Green back in the lineup to help fortify the return game for Edmonton.
For Jamaica Rector.
And it will be Green from his goal line. And up short of the 20-yard line, so here's another case of not taking it at the 35. The gamble doesn't work, but wanted to get Skylar Green into the game, and now Ricky Ray and his offense will go to work.
Some great weapons for Ricky Ray to choose from in that receiving core in the backfield. Of course, Andre Talbot is highlighted because he is the former Toronto Argonaut playing against his old team here tonight. And there is the offensive line, Jeremy Parquette, his second start at right tackle.
Archie Whitlock gets the carry. And a nice shift across the 25 up to the 28-yard line. Jason Pottinger, the middle linebacker, on the tackle.
No Adriano Belli in that defensive line, so Eric Taylor draws into the lineup. Adrian Davis is also dressed here tonight, and in the secondary, highlighted Byron Parker. He's made some big plays, including that interception for a touchdown against the BC Lions out on the corner, and a former Eskimo.
8 for Whitlock, 2nd and 2, and Whitlock will carry for the first down and more. Up over the 40-yard line for Archie Whitlock, who had 2 100-yard games last year against the Argos. You mentioned Eric Taylor at defensive tackle, playing with a heavy heart. Learned this morning that his father had passed away. His brother and sister are with his mother back in Nashville. He'll join them tomorrow. But his dad, earlier in the week, said how excited he was to hear he was going to play his first game for the Argos, and he's playing in tribute of his father tonight. First down and a steady diet to Archie Whitlock up to the 40-yard line. Excuse me, up to the 50.
Edmonton Eskimos deciding to go ahead and try and just establish that ground game early on against a very good Toronto Argonaut defense against the run. They're right in the middle of the pack, but up front, Jason Pottinger, Kevin Iben, one of the leading tacklers in the league.
7 for Whitlock, 2nd and 3. They'll try it again, and this time the Argos have the answer. Alex Busby, the defensive end, slammed the door shut and forced third down.
Yeah, I was going to say that the Eskimos, not surprising that they're going to try and establish that ground game with Adriano Belli out of the middle of that defensive line, just to see and test the changes up front, see how they're going to react. But a real nice play here as Archie Whitlock tries to hit the backside of this play, and it is sealed down by Alex Busby.
So the former Argo will punt it away. There's Chad Owens with a couple of kick return touchdowns. They kick away from him. Ryan Christian has it. And with a penalty flag on the play, Christian up to the 32-yard line. 3-0 Argos early in Edmonton. Wendy's CFL on TSN. Friday Night Football is brought to you in part by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL, and by Rona, proud sponsor of the Canadian Football League. Rona, doing it right.
Toronto Argonauts have been very good in the penalty department this year, but a costly one here. Lin-Jay Shell was just called for a legal substitution to give the ball back to the Edmonton Eskimos.
Yes, the Eskimos get a first down at the Argo 50, and the first pass play is to Kelly Campbell, cut down by the safety Willie Pyle. The dangerous Kelly Campbell, 4th in CFL receiving.
They're going to use that hit screen after great success last week with it to the right of the formation as Ricky Ray gets it out there. Nice blocking down the field by the receiving core, including Fred Stamps, who had Byron Parker all tied up.
So 2nd and 2. And Whitlock can't find anything. Shut down again. Check that. Calvin McCarty. Last week, the Eskimos were just 5 for 20 on second down. They were 0-4 on second and short, and that's back-to-back second and short, where the Argos have stuffed them again.
Should get a little bit better field position depending on what Richie Hall is trying to mull over, whether or not to try a long field goal here.
It would be 50 yards and maybe a little bit more for Noel Prefontaine, whose longest so far this year is 46. He's missed from 49, and Richie Hall sends him out to punt instead. And the count is on for the Argos to make sure they don't make the same mistake. Prefontaine. This will be played at the 2 as Owens wants to return. Flag down as Chad Owens is spilled up at the 13-yard line. It looks like the Argos will be backed up when they begin their next possession. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Nissan. Shift the way you move. Well, Chad Owens has been explosive this year, but you didn't like that decision.
No, he caught that punt right with his heels on the goal line, and that either a decision by the head coach Jim Barker or Chad Owens really didn't like it. He let that one go through, get way better field position.
Jeff Johnson, illegal block, but they hand it off to Corey Boyd. There's that spin move, and he has a first down, a little breathing room for the Argo offense, and Corey Boyd was anxious to get the ball a lot more after being shut down by Montreal last week.
Yeah, well, last week he was 9 carries, and that's why under 100 yards. Anytime he got to double figures this year, he's got that 100-yard mark. And all 3 games that he's had 100, the football team has won.
Off to a great start, a 15-yard romp there for the newly clocked Corey Boyd. Here's Andre Dury out of the backfield, and the York product has another first down, and this Argo offense looking a little more dangerous in the opening quarter here than we have seen.
You know, I like the design of it because what they're trying to do is use the attention that they know Corey Boyd is going to get to their advantage. So little play action, pull the ball out there with Drury out of the backfield coming this side. And it's, you know, you're going to pull at least Maurice Lloyd, probably TJ Hill and Ron Davis in there as well. The linebackers are keying on number 3, especially on first down.
2 big first downs to get Owens out of the doghouse, and now he has it up to the 43-yard line, close to 5 for Chad Owens.
You're right, Chris. It's always a great decision if this happens afterwards, with Chad Owens receiving that punt on his own 1-yard line. The penalty, they start right down there in their own end, but a couple of good runs by Corey Boyd, little play action to Andre Dury, and all of a sudden the Argos out of that hole.
Chris Schultz talked about a quantum leap for Cleo Lemon. Will it be tonight? Second down, and he's got Jermaine Copeland, another first down. Copeland at midfield, a guy who scored 5 touchdowns against this Edmonton defense a year ago.
Yeah, he likes to play against the Edmonton Eskimos. Jermaine Copeland, 4 games as a Stampeder. Here is your defense, a front 7 for the Edmonton Eskimos. Larry Burdine in for a late scratch, and Kai Ellis mentioned that early on, and a couple of changes in the secondary. Salim Borak goes to center, or to safety. Lenny Walls is out, and Lawrence Gordon in at halfback.
First down, flag, and Cleo Lemon on the roll, and that one intended for Andre Dury, incomplete. Again, a flag on the play and some heat on Cleo Lemon. Lemon only 8 completions last week against Montreal, started 4 for 4.
There is no infraction on the play. Number 67 reported as eligible.
So Jeff Keeping was eligible, no flag, but the first incompletion for Cleo Lemon on the night.
So far, I really like the game plan created here by the offensive coordinator, Jamie Elizondo, who is new to the whole offensive coordination game in the Canadian Football League. His first year as the OC in Toronto. But I like this game plan to use Corey Boyd to his advantage even when he doesn't have the ball.
4 receivers wide side. Here comes the heat. Lemon gets away. And he's got an open man. There's Owens. And Chad Owens has the first down. He'll be tossed to the turf by Chris Thompson. But Cleo Lemon and the Argo offense continues to roll here in the first quarter.
TJ Hill is the linebacker that's going to provide the pressure, but Cleo Lemon, and this is one thing that Jim Barker really admires about Cleo Lemon, and that's his composure, because you're going to see number 18 off the edge. Boy, and he has him cold in the backfield, but Lemon maintains his composure, bounces the outside, picks up Chad Owens. First down, Argonauts.
They've moved the ball 66 yards on the drive. Back in the hands of Boyd, straight ahead. First down and a lot more. Gets a block from Chad Owens, and another, and Corey Boyd has the touchdown. 43 yards, Corey Boyd to the house. And the Argos expand their lead. Happy birthday, Corey Boyd.
Happy 25th birthday. It was just amazing yesterday to have a nice conversation with Corey Boyd and asked him about how he felt about being the leading rusher in the CFL coming into this week, and he looked genuinely surprised. And I said, well, you know you're the leading rusher. He said, really? He just is that kind of, as long as we continue to put W's on the board is all he's concerned about, and he gets some good help from his friends down the field. Some nice blocks in the open field. What a run.
43-yard touchdown. He already has 64 yards. The Argos have a 10-point lead.
Key block is by Rob Murphy. He's going to kind of try and chip out here on Maurice Lloyd. Now Maurice Lloyd tries to beat him, and when he does, he overruns the play. Corey Boyd takes advantage of that. Watch Murphy come out. He tries to get that chip block on the middle linebacker. When Mo Lloyd tries to get around that block, he overruns it. And then a nice block in the open field by Brandon Rideau. One of the receivers doing a nice job to allow him to spring to the outside, and Corey Boyd gets a touchdown.
Skylar Green on the return for Edmonton, and he'll kick it outside. Up across the 30 before he runs out of room. Angle out there by Matt Black. Dreadlocks are gone, but just as explosive. He has become quite a story in the first third of the CFL regular season.
Well, he's great to watch. I mean, he is a true football player. Runs downhill. He plays aggressively. He tries to always be the hammer, not the nail when it comes to contact. But you could see his vision as well, where he breaks to the outside once he gets around middle linebacker Maurice Lloyd.
43 yards, his longest run of the year, and just 10 fewer than last week's output against the Alouettes. Archie Whitlock is dragged down. Tackle made by Ronald Flemons. Got the leading rusher in the league in Boyd, the number 3 man in Whitlock, and Corey Boyd is enhancing that rushing lead.
He was asked yesterday about touchdown celebrations, and if he got one on his birthday, would he do some sort of special dance? He said, no, touchdown celebrations take away from your teammates. I'm not big on those.
Second and long. And it's downfield and batted down by Evan McCullough. The knockdown on the pass intended for Kelly Campbell.
So let's take a look at Corey Boyd on his 25th birthday, his touchdown celebration. Little reflection, little prayer.
Says he doesn't celebrate birthdays either, but that might change tonight. He said if they win, he might celebrate a little bit here in Edmonton tonight. What a great start for the Argonauts.
And what a great story Corey Boyd has become.
And all the positive collateral that the Eskimos built last week is evaporating here. Chad Owens will give the Argos great field position again across the 50 with that 15-yard return. 10-0 Argos. Let's join Jermaine Franklin on the sidelines.
Chris, after the Argos were shut out completely in the second half of their game against Montreal last week, the questions resurfaced of whether Cleo Lemon had what it took to be a quarterback in this league. Lemon said the criticism comes with the territory of being a starting quarterback, but he did admit that he has to be better in order for the Argos offense to be better. But he must feel pretty good knowing he has the support of his head coach. Jim Barker got a little testy with the media when he was asked about Cleo, as well as he has the support as his teammates in the locker room. Jermaine Copeland said he'll ride with Cleo all the way, and the 3 wins they have was no fluke.
Riding in style right now, 151 yards of offense in the first 12 minutes, and this time Lemon on his own will add to those totals as he waltzes into Edmonton territory out at the 39, and it's very quiet at Commonwealth.
Jim Barker talked about his toughness. He's been knocked out of a couple of games this year, got back up, dusted himself off, got back in the huddle. Talked about his composure. Also, I already mentioned that off the top, that he shows great composure under pressure. But, you know, Chris Schultz mentioned it before the show started. He's got to put up some numbers. He's got to start to put the ball in the air and have success doing it.
Double tight end formation. Boyd out of the backfield has the catch and makes the first man miss, and the second. And look at that extra effort. Finally dropped at the 30.
Because, yes, you want them to develop and you want them to understand the game, and that's going to take time. But sooner or later, those numbers being that low in the passing game that is the Canadian Football League will come back and haunt you. And in that Montreal game with just 143, obviously he couldn't keep pace with Anthony Calvillo and the Alouettes. Now, a lot of teams can't do that. But the bottom line being that Jim Barker has confidence. He's not wavering from his decision to allow him to learn the CFL game.
Second and about 1.5 yards, 2 yards, and this guy will get that done and add to the Eskimo woes as he runs over people again. TJ Hill and Salim Borhat bring Boyd to the turf.
Right now, Rob Murphy is just starting to, and the left side of that offensive line, the Argos left side of the offensive line is really starting to open up some backside holes. Rob Murphy there, big block on Javi Glatt to just blow him out of the hole. Got in a little trouble lately with the league with a Twitter account.
Oh, we'll be talking a lot about Twitter and tweets, especially headed to Vancouver.
Yeah, it's the Twitter Bowl tomorrow in Vancouver.
1st and 10 after the 12-yard Boyd run. Lemon gunned that in, but it was dropped. Intended for Ryan Christian.
What's interesting about that exchange with Jim Barker, he admitted that he maybe went too far with the media, as Jermaine Franklin mentioned, and he admitted that, but he is emotional about his quarterback, and he said that, you know, he probably went a little too far. Then I don't think the media were suggesting you cut Cleo Lemon or you get rid of him. I'm just wondering, with the numbers as low as they've been, would Dalton Bell get a look? He said, nope, this is my guy.
Salim Borhat is taking a knee, still feeling the effects maybe of that tackle on Corey Boyd. And Jason Nugent will come in at safety for the Eskimos.
And the one thing that Jim Barker kept emphasizing with Cleo Lemon is forget about the passing numbers. You can spin it any way you want. I want to talk about the record. And he challenged the media to go out and see and take a look at some of the great quarterbacks in the league and what was their record.
And you took up the challenge, and those are some pretty interesting names.
Yeah, and again, thanks to Steve Daniel in the stats department with the CFL for doing some digging, but that compares with some big names when you look at a 3-2 record to start. Many have said, yeah, but it was the running game, and it was the defense, and it was special teams. Hey, wins are wins. When you're the starting quarterback, it is the most important stat. Great conversation with him too, Chris, like yesterday, and he, you know, I asked him about his sort of long-term look at the Canadian Football League, our country. He said his wife, Cherise, is coming in with Madison in a week with their girl, and they're going to settle in for the season. He said that he loves the country, what he's seen. And he said, if the best case scenario, 5 years from now, we're celebrating a couple of Argonaut championships, and I've settled in as their starting quarterback, and really, that's what I have on my mind. This is not just a one-stop, one-year deal. I want to be the starter here. Jim Barker's giving him that opportunity.
And he is taking full advantage of it tonight. So far, Borhat hobbling to the sidelines. Nugent goes in, and it's 2nd and 10 for the Argonauts at the Eskimos 17. Packet collapsing, and they get to Lemon for the first time. 3 sacks last week, and Mo Lloyd, the middle linebacker, gets home.
This is what Richie Hall defensively is going to have to do a lot more with Cleo Lemon, and that's to give him different looks. There's Maurice Lloyd right on the line of scrimmage, but look what he's done. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 up on the line. Really no linebackers here, and he's trying to look at Cleo Lemon in his 6th start and say, hey, look, where are they coming from? Who's blitzing, who's not, who's going to drop? You got to make that decision after you snap the ball. That time they got him.
So Grant Shaw, the Edmonton product, in to try another. And this time he does miss to the right. And it results in just a single point after a promising drive for Jim Barker's team. They only get 1, but add to their lead. It's now 11-0 in the final minute, first quarter. Well, we've talked a lot about Cleo Lemon, and Jermaine Copeland says that everybody in the room is right behind their quarterback.
I really think he's a great quarterback. He's got a great head on his shoulder. He's a great leader, you know, and he's got the potential to be great in this league. You know, you can look at a lot of quarterbacks who played their first year into the league. They all didn't put up big numbers anyway, you know, but it's just a matter of getting victories under your belt right now, just to stabilize and keep you in that spot. And I think that's what Cleo's doing. And I really think that you're going to see a breakout game come real soon from Cleo, and then all the critics can shut it up.
Might be watching it tonight.
Oh, he's off to a great start. He's got Corey Boyd going, that running game, little play action involved. He's moving the ball well, showed composure, run a little bit. And you can see the leadership qualities as he goes up and down that bench to talk to his offensive unit. By the way, that list of starts, first 5 starts for quarterbacks, Ricky Ray was on that list and was the #1 guy at 4-1.
2nd and 5, back to McCarty, brought down close to the first down on the final play of the opening quarter. It was a good one for the visitors. Argos lead by 11. First quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons, proud sponsor of the CFL.
Well, the plan for the Edmonton Eskimos defensively was to stop Corey Boyd and make the Argos one-dimensional on offense. They haven't got that done in the first quarter. You can see 76 yards rushing just for Corey Boyd alone. And as a team, the Argos pushing that 100-yard mark already.
Argos with 181. They only had 227 for the entire game last week against Montreal. What about the team that was supposed to have the momentum after their first win of the year?
Yeah, you don't see that spark. You don't see that enthusiasm, a sense of urgency like we saw last week with Edmonton. A good offensive drive may be able to cue that.
It has been a slow starting team all year, just 13 points for Ricky Ray and company in the first quarter. See if they can rev the engine a bit here in quarter number 2. Look downfield and then dumps it off, and Whitlock out of the backfield up to the 52-yard line, brought down there by veteran Kevin Iben.
You see the helmet with the double E. It's retro 70s week, and well, it actually extends into a couple of weeks, but it's the home game for the Edmonton Eskimos, so they're celebrating pretty good decade for this football team.
They had a lot to celebrate in the 70s, didn't they?
Boy, did they ever. Did they ever.
Argos will wear their 70s retro next week at their home game. 2nd and 3. Ray short drop, and he's got Andrew Nowacki. And Nowacki's got a first down into Argo territory at the Toronto 46.
What a decade for the Edmonton Eskimos in the 70s. The decade started out in 1970. Ray Yauch was their coach. He was named Coach of the Year. You can see the Grey Cup championships. Of course, Hugh Campbell was the mainstay, the coach for most of that.
And 78, 79, they were just starting to hit on all cylinders for the greatest dynasty. And the cheerleaders of that dynasty team are here tonight as part of 70s night retro week here in Edmonton. Draw play, Whitlock, and Archie Whitlock with a flag down is brought down at the Toronto 37.
Kyle Koch, he looked like he was tied up with one of the Argo defenders. And the flag landed right by his feet.
Holding. Edmonton, number 61. 10-yard penalty, repeat, first down.
Good call. It was the Kenora native, Kyle Koch. And if one player symbolized the 70s in Edmonton,
yes, sir,
it was probably number 42.
Shenley Award winner, and they were called the Shenleys back then. 1977. Dan Kepley through that entire run. 5 straight that went into the 80s, but the first 2 were in the 70s.
Ricky Ray screening it to Whitlock. Whitlock dropped at the 50-yard line, has 6. He's second and long. You want to get kept heated up. Just mention the Montreal Alouettes. What a rivalry. And after being thumped in that ice bowl of 77, they bounced back in 78 to start the run.
Jim Germany, the Edmonton Eskimos, number 25, pounding over for a touchdown there. There's Tom Wilkinson in that group.
And they want to run Este tonight at halftime, part of that dynasty team. Second and a bunch, and Ricky Ray pulls it down. Turn pursuit. And Ray is angled out short of the first down at the Argo 39-yard line.
Short of the first down, but he may have picked up enough to attempt a field goal. He did get that side opened up, but because of the penalty by Kyle Koch, it was second and a bunch. It does look like he did get enough yardage to send Noel Prefontaine out there for a field goal, and this is going to be about a 47, 48-yarder.
Would be Prefontaine's longest of the year. The guy who admitted to holding a bit of a grudge when he was first let go by the Argos. He said that is all water under the bridge now. Trying to get Edmonton on the board. And he does. 48-yarder. New season best for Noel Prefontaine. It's new look Corey Boyd with more. Here again, Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Corey Boyd lost a lot of weight this week because he cut his hair. His long and flowing locks were getting yanked and pulled out too much during the season, so he decided to go for the clean cut route. His wife tried to talk him out of it all the way from Denver, but Boyd decided to do it anyways, and when he posted a picture for her to see, she gave him a passing grade, saying it reminded her of his freshman year. Maybe he sparked something there.
There he is again, taken out heavily, and that will draw flags.
It will.
He was already out when the Eskimos worked him over on the sidelines.
You know, I think he's faster. I think with the haircut,
Sampson's not any weaker.
No, he's not. Off to a great start in this football game. He just no quit in him, and that's definitely a late hit.
Unnecessary roughness. Edmonton, number 6. 15-yard penalty at the end of the play. First down.
Javi Glatt with a late hit, and that's 15 costly yards against the Eskimo defense. Turns out to be a 28-yard play. Corey Boyd was a 1,000-yard receiver in college at South Carolina. Argos haven't used him much as a receiver, but a couple of times in this first half. There's Copeland with a catch in front of Jason Goss, the corner back in the Eskimos secondary after missing last week.
You know, Corey Boyd's pace after 5 weeks, really incredible. In fact, on pace for an Argonaut record at 17:42 coming in. I know it's early in the season. The best so far in the Toronto Argonauts history was Michael Jenkins in 2001 and 1484. So off to a good start again tonight. And as I mentioned earlier, He rushes for 100 yards. They've won all 3 games.
Jenkins, the only Argo rushing champ in the last 55 years. Back into Boyd's hands. Good collision there, but another first down to the Edmonton 35.
As long as he gets to the second level like this all night, Chris, he's going to have a successful evening, because he gets through that line of scrimmage. Dario Romero, Adam Braidwood can't clog up the middle. Now he's one-on-one with Maurice Lloyd, TJ Hill, who's undersized at linebacker, and Rod Davis or Javi Glatt, depending on the substitution. But he gets to that second level, he'll have a big night.
Averaging over 13 yards a carry so far. So why not give it to him again? And down to the 30. 5 more as he falls ahead, with Larry Burdine bringing him down.
I asked Maurice Lloyd before the game, just a real softball. What's your keys to success here? He says, my keys are the A-gap. There's one A-gap, and there's the other A-gap. That's the gap between the center and the guard on either side. Maurice Lloyd said, that's my responsibility, and that's where Corey Boyd's going to end up. Now, he gets some help from his defensive lineman there. But Mo Lloyd said, that's my responsibility to stop the run.
2nd and 5. Here comes the pressure. Lemon stands in, and Andre Dury seemed a little surprised at the quick arrival of that ball. It falls incomplete.
Yeah, and that one you put on Andre Dury, and that goes down as a flat-out drop. Cleo Lemon has had 2 drops, clear drops tonight, and this is great blitz pickup. He sees Maurice Lloyd and knows he has to get rid of that football. The ball is on time and on the money, and that's just Andre Dury. That's a big, big play on blitz pickup. He's got to recognize it quicker, get his head around so he can see and help his quarterback.
Grant Shaw back in. 1 for 2. And the one he made just got tucked into the right. And he has pushed this one right again. So Shaw with another single. And you wonder if that'll come back to haunt Jim Parker's team. Well, tonight our Scotiabank Show Your Colors pays tribute to the Blandowskis. Boyd, Alicia, and somewhere under the jacket in a little pouch is 10-day-old Parker. And because of Parker's arrival, they missed their first game in at least 6 years.
After Jackie Parker, possibly, or
well,
no?
I asked Boyd that, and he smiled and said, no, but I didn't argue when the name was suggested. It sounded good. So our congratulations to them. They're not too happy with the way this game has gone so far, but a couple of misses by Grant Shaw, and Ricky Ray's Eskimos are still within reach.
Yeah, they're hanging around. Those misses could become costly for the Argos, but Ricky Ray has not been able to push the ball deep against his secondary. Byron Parker and Willie Middlebrooks on the corners. He's having to be patient, dump the ball, and put together long drives.
Second down, the play action to Whitlock, and Stamps has it. And a first down catch as he is taken down just beyond the 45-yard line.
Byron Parker always a threat, not just to do a nice job of coverage on the corner, but also if you're off on your timing on a throw to his side of the field, he will take it to the house in a hurry, as the BC Lions found out a couple of weeks ago.
And last week, the shoe was on the other foot as BC took one back against Ricky Ray. Byron Parker sitting on 7 career interceptions, 1 off the league record. 1st and 10, Argo Heat dumped off underneath, and Jason Barnes will be dragged down by Kevin Iben, number 3 in the league in tackling, coming into tonight's game.
Well, this is what's going to have to happen for Edmonton to continue to move the ball, is they're going to have to work on yak yards. And Barnes this time is the only receiver to the short side of the field. He's going to work underneath here, just kind of come underneath. And again, Ray's having to dump it under. Can't go for the big play down the field right now, so he's got to depend on yak yards from his receivers.
Back-to-back first downs, 11 for Barnes. At the Argo 53, it's Whitlock with room straight ahead. Archie Whitlock inside the 45, close to another Edmonton first down.
Archie Whitlock has probably the best vision for running back in the Canadian Football League when you think that this play is designed to go here, and somehow he sees the hole before he gets the ball and cuts it back. Just great instincts in the hole, and now it's off to the races for Whitlock. He said, I asked him, do you pre-snap, look for the hole? Are you looking for it as you get the football? He said, no, instincts only. I see the wrong color, I'm going the opposite direction.
Almost got by Willie Pyle there as well, and now big room off the left side. Second and short, and Archie Whitlock moves the chains with conviction.
Asked him who were the guys when he was growing up and who did he like as running backs and try to model his game after. And it's not a surprise. Out of all the running backs in the National Football League, I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count on who he liked.
Would it be Walter Payton?
Well, no. It was...
Okay.
Okay, I'll give you 2 guesses then. Barry Sanders. I'll give you 2, partner.
Oh, I knew I wasn't going to come up with it.
Just because he's little and cuts on the dime.
13. And Ray going deep, looking for Kelly Campbell, knocked down. Willie Pyle, the safety, in his new position, along with Byron Parker.
Yeah, Willie Pyle's going to give Byron Parker some help. Kelly Campbell did have a step, but the ball had to be put out there perfectly, and with Willie Pyle coming from the safety spot, you can see Byron Parker on the outside shoulder. He knows he's got help inside. He times that up perfect and gets his hands on the ball, cutting underneath.
Byron Parker, who spent 6 games here last year with the Eskimos.
See, Ricky Ray couldn't throw it into the middle and let Kelly Campbell run to it because Pyle was there, and that gave Parker a chance to knock it down.
2nd and 10. At the 31, there's Kelly Campbell, and that is incomplete. Evan McCullough in the neighborhood.
Ray looking for the quick hit this time.
And the Eskimo drive will stall.
You mentioned Kelly Campbell's big numbers. He's had a few of these too.
Yeah.
And he did find the end zone for the Edmonton Eskimos last week against the Lions, but he's had a few of these.
And 2 of the drops were in the end zone at critical times against Montreal and Saskatchewan. Otherwise, it might not have been an 0-4 start in Edmonton. So Prefontaine back on, this time from 37 out. And Prefontaine misses to the same direction, so not a great night for the kickers so far. And it's 12-4 Toronto. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by TELUS, proud sponsor of the Canadian Football League. See, it's the CFL. The NFL I have trouble with.
I'll give you more guesses next time. Salim Borat, safety, is out. Right ankle injury. Jason Nugent in at safety.
Just back off injury. Back into the hands of powerful Corey Boyd. Bulldozing across the 40-yard line. And close to 6 more.
One of the reasons that he may be getting and chewing up some yards is that some backups are having to play on that defense for Edmonton. Javi Blatt is in there for Rod Davis. It looks like we're hearing he's got a bit of a hamstring, Davis, and is trying to work that out on the bike, on the stationary bike on the sideline. So he and the safety out.
2nd down, flag, play action on the pass. Too low for Copeland. Let's find out what the flag's all about.
Offside. Edmonton, number 78. 5-yard penalty results in a 1st down.
So Andre Coleman offside. Rod Davis has a new backup tonight. There he is, Will Harris out of USC. He'll be on special teams. They just don't think he's quite up to speed yet on the defensive responsibilities, but they are very high on his athletic ability. And there's Rod Davis trying to loosen up. 1st down by a penalty. And look at this guy go. They have not had an answer for the downhill running of Corey Boyd in this first half.
Just gets that pad level down and doesn't ever stop his legs from churning as he hits the line of scrimmage. And in the games we've covered of the Argos, I have not seen the first tackler bring Corey Boyd down. He just refuses to go down. The guy that is so thankful for the opportunity to start in the tailback position for the Argos and is taking full advantage of it.
And with that carry, he'll get a first down and more, and over the century mark for the 4th time in 6 weeks.
And he is completely winning the battle in that A-gap with Maurice Lloyd right now. There's Maurice Lloyd. There's Corey Boyd. They're going to try and meet. Good block by Dominic Picard. He squeezes through there somehow and then drags TJ Hill for another couple.
Boy, yesterday the Eskimos spelled out the game plan pretty simply. Make Toronto one-dimensional by stopping the run. They haven't been able to do it that time. Corralling Boyd at the 44 and maybe a yard.
Now you're seeing Maurice Lloyd having to guess and just say, I'm going straight for the run. On that last play, he did not hesitate coming off the line of scrimmage. You can see him in his stance moving forward. He just says, look, if I'm going to take an A-gap, I better go and take it. So he shoots up there. Now, he doesn't make the tackle, but if the linebackers are committing that quickly, play action is the next step.
They've given the 3-minute warning here. First half at Commonwealth. Argos with the ball and the lead. Our sack tally is brought to you by Purelator. Tackling hunger across Canada. Check. One for Edmonton tonight by Mo Lloyd. 2nd and 9. Some pressure on Lemon, but he gets away and finds a receiver. A completion for Cleo Lemon to Chad Owens, and another Argo first down.
Scrambling with his eyes upfield, Cleo Lemon buys some time. He's got great mobility. In fact, a lot of people wondering why Cleo Lemon doesn't actually run the football a lot more. And there's his receiver on the play, Chad Owens, who's going to find a hole, come back to the football. Deep routes, see him running the crosser. He goes up the field. If you're short and you see your quarterback scramble, you go deep.
First and 10. Little roll and good catch there by Christian. And Christian able to make something out of a shoe top catch. And he'd be marked out at the 17-yard line.
Nice catch by Christian out of the backfield. And Cleo Lemon has now completed 12 of 13 if you count those 2 drops, because he's had 2 perfect throws in the hands of receivers that have hit the ground. That was a nice catch by Christian.
And with that 8-yard catch, Cleo Lemon has now more passing yards already tonight than all of last week against the Alouettes. 2nd and 2. Corey Boyd tripped up at the 15. Should have the first down. But he had his eyes on the end zone.
And I think he tripped on his own guy. It looked like it might have been Chad Rempel came in trying to help him blocking. And as he tries to cut to the backside of that play, and it was open. He had some room there. I think he just stepped on the ankle or tripped over the back of that foot. Right there, Chad Rempel. He's looking at the 12 defenders trying to tackle him and not the guy trying to block for him.
It is a first down. At the Edmonton 14, pressure, Lemon gets away. Looking for Copeland. Incomplete.
This is the design play to get Cleo Lemon a chance to not have to read the entire defense. He knows he's going to get man-to-man coverage at this point in the field. So he's just going to line up Jermaine Copeland on the short side as almost a tight end and go one-on-one with Jason Goss. Now he gets a little pressure, so the accuracy on the throw isn't quite there, but we've seen Jermaine Copeland come down with that more than he's not.
Copeland with a couple 100-yard games in those 5 touchdowns last year as a stampeder against the arch-rival Eskimos. Trying to keep this drive going. 2nd and 10. Looking to the end zone again. Touchdown! touchdown, Corey Boyd, a spectacular catch. And the birthday celebration continues.
You mentioned he's got a little experience as a receiver in his football life, in his football career. He shows it there. He comes out of the backfield and is going to run what's called a wheel route, where he goes down the sidelines, one-on-one on linebacker Javi Glatt, and lays out for a real pretty touchdown. And it is dead quiet in Commonwealth.
Maybe the Eskimos did make them one-dimensional. The problem is the dimension is Corey Boyd, who has a touchdown on the ground, one as a receiver. And with the extra point, it's now a 15-point Toronto lead.
Corey Boyd is coming out of the backfield, and what he's going to do is do what's called the wheel route, where he comes out here into the flat and then he wheels down the sideline. The linebacker Javi Glatt has got to pick him up. It's one-on-one. He knows he's going to get man-to-man coverage down at the goal line. So now in pretty good position is Glatt. Ball thrown out in front, and Corey Boyd with a spectacular catch. And Cleo Lemon puts this where he has to. Out in front, if it's in a trail at all, Javi Glatt has a chance. What a play.
He's had the ball in his hands 15 times now, 148 yards and 2 touchdowns. 12 runs, 112 yards, a touchdown, 3 catches, 36 yards, and a touchdown.
And he goes and thanks every one of the offensive linemen after the play. I mean, this guy's almost too good to be true. He went to the PR department the last couple of weeks asking when high school football in Toronto begins, because he'd like to go out and work with some of the kids in the local community. He does it all, this guy.
Some of those high schools might want to give the Argos a call.
Yes.
Kick return to the 25, and what a night already for Corey Boyd, just 28 minutes in.
Well, you've heard it many times when offensive coordinators and offensive coaches have said, we have to be able to run the ball when everybody knows we're going to run the ball. We have a young quarterback in Toronto. We're going to lean on Corey Boyd early in the season. Everyone knows that, including the Eskimos, and they can't stop him. And then he sprinkles in this pretty catch.
And now the veteran quarterback has to get things going. Got Andrew Nowacki. Got a first down for the Eskimos up to the 39-yard line. So 15 for Andrew Nowacki.
A lot of people here in Edmonton wondering if the Eskimos could build on that win, if it was just sort of a rush of adrenaline with all that was happening and swirling around this team last week and the firing of Danny Machocha right after the win. Could they sustain it? Was this the real team last week, or was the 0-4 team the real team?
Over the middle, it's a completion to the former Argo. There's Andre Talbot in his 10th year in the league and his first not a member of the Toronto Argonauts. Close to a first down, and we are a minute 20 away from live at the half. There's Dave Randorf. Matt Dunnigan got both teams fired up for this game. Chris Schultz and Jock Climbing. Was Schultz prophetic again when he talked about a quantum leap for Cleo Lemon? Jason Barnes a catch forced out by Willie Middlebrooks, and the Eskimos really need to change this scoreboard in the final 72 seconds.
Yeah, they've got to get going, and it's going to be almost a hurry-up situation now for Ricky Ray. I mean, he's not going to call the plays on the line of scrimmage just yet, but there's got to be a sense of urgency in this offense. We'll see a lot more throw, I'm sure.
Second and 3. Pottinger creeps up looking like he'll blitz. Here comes the heat. Ray stands in, and pass intended for Fred Stamps, but he was all tied up in tight coverage with Lynn J. Shell.
Well, they've looked deep a couple of times to Fred Stamps or Kelly Campbell, and the coverage has just been too good down the field. And that time, I think the fans here in Commonwealth upset that on 2nd and 4, under 5 yards, they'll try and go deep on that play at 3 yards. 2nd and 3. Interesting decision to try and go deep when you just need 3 to move the chains.
And again, I mentioned they went 0 for 4, 2nd and 3 or less last week, and that's 3 times tonight. They've been unsuccessful in converting 2nd and short. Prefontaine's going to throw. There's McCarty. And does he have the first? Yes. Well, the old high school quarterback, Noel Prefontaine, who has done this with Toronto, comes up with a clutch play. Noel Thorpe, the co-coach and special teams guy, celebrating that call.
Boy, you know, when you're a special teams coach, you get a chance to do this maybe once or twice a year. And Calvin McCarty's going to come out of that personal protector position, go out into the flat right by the numbers. But that is not an easy throw to make for quarterbacks. And Noel Prefontaine puts it right on the money.
Well, is that the spark this Eskimo offense needs? Ray running out of time. Busby with his hands on him. And Ricky Ray throws incomplete.
Ricky Ray looking over the middle. Andre Talbot trying to come back from the
well, you know, I'm looking down at the secondary for the Toronto Argonauts here, and I am not seeing an open receiver on those deep routes. They're shutting the door right now. Lynn J. Shell, Byron Parker out there, McCullough and Middlebrooks. And these guys, they're trying to find Stamps and Campbell down the field, and they've got a blanket on them, and it's a double blue.
2nd and 10. There's Nowacki underneath. First down. Dropped at the 35-yard line.
Time for a few more plays for Edmonton. They don't have to get on the line of scrimmage here. They could squeeze in 3 more plays before a field goal attempt. Fred Stamps, one of the targets for Ricky Ray, stays in the block on that play on the backside, and Wacky picks up a first down.
Middlebrooks with the tackle. This play doesn't get off. And going against the Eskimos as the Argos get their options. Defensive captain Willie Pyle conferring with Jim Barker.
Legal procedure. Edmonton, number 58, 5-yard penalty, remains first down.
No 58 on the field, but
possibly 59 or 56.
The bongo's bigger than Calvin Armstrong, so here's Whitlock trying to weave his way through. Marquis Whitlock on 1st and 15 with a good run down to the Argonaut 27.
Gives a chance for Ricky Ray that he could throw to the end zone on this play, although he doesn't have to force it. He should get about 2-3 plays
timeout
left.
Edmonton.
They'll call their timeout now.
Ricky Ray has always had trouble with the Argonaut defense. Last 4 games has not had more than 1 touchdown pass in a game. 9 in his last 9 starts against the Argos. And he has been held in check in this first half by an Argo defense that was shredded a week ago, but has bounced back very nicely.
Well, they're taking away the big play and forcing Edmonton to be patient.
Second and 2, 2.5. Whitlock again. And he'll dance for a first down to the 20 with 13 seconds remaining. So they'll have time for 1 shot.
Yeah, maybe one more play, one shot at the end zone, and then if they don't get it, to line up the field goal team, but he's got to hurry.
So the clock starts. And Ray looks to the end zone, looks for Stamps, knocked down, and there is Lynn J. Shell once again, and he has had a terrific half working against Fred Stamps.
Boy, they have across the board in that secondary. Byron Parker early on Kelly Campbell, and then here Lynn J. Shell with great inside position. He just does not give it up. He gets a little underneath help from Kevin Ivan, the linebacker, who gets great depth. He knows Ricky Ray is going to go to the end zone on that play, so he gets underneath this halfback to help him out. Perfect coverage.
So Prefontaine comes on. And from 27 yards out, splits the uprights. Final play of a first half that was dominated by the visitors. And after 30 minutes of football at Commonwealth, the Argonauts have a 12-point lead.
Welcome back to Wendy's Friday Night Football. 19-7 is the score for the Argos. Great first half for them. They have not won in a Western city since November of 2007. 0-9 since. Very tough half for the Edmonton Eskimos, who are 30 minutes away from dropping to 1-5. Their first and only win came a week ago tonight at home to the BC Lions. Despite that victory, their president and CEO Rick Lawlisher made big news the following day when he fired general manager Danny Machocha, ending an 8-year run in Edmonton for Machocha, which included stints as their offensive coordinator and head coach. We will speak to Machocha momentarily, but first, the man who made the firing, the president and CEO Rick Lawlisher, spoke with our Brian Williams.
Danny Machocha maintains he was never really accepted in this community. Was his firing a reaction to the fans, or was this a football decision?
I think it was both. Clearly we know some of the fans' views, and I used the term at the time that he'd been tagged for I think various reasons, some fair, some not very fair. But it also, the decision was made going forward that I really believe that this is in the best interests of the Edmonton Eskimo Football Club and Danny Machocha going forward.
You were quoted as saying, an Eskimos win last week, and they did beat BC, there would be no changes. What changed your mind?
Well, the quote was wrong. If I was quoted, I said at the time that there was no one on this team that was untouchable, including myself, and that there would be changes. But what I said was winning's the only option. I did not say that there wouldn't be any changes if we won.
As we wrap up, a couple of quick questions. He won a Grey Cup as a rookie coach for Edmonton, as an offensive coordinator for the Eskimos. In hindsight, was he perhaps not quite ready to be a GM? Administration-wise?
Hard to say. I think, no, Danny had a business background, and so administration-wise, I think he was fine. If looking back, the reason we made the change at the time was that it's very difficult to be a head coach and a general manager, and so we made that split when we hired Coach Hull. Maybe it should have been a couple more years, but we don't have that luxury of going back.
Couple of seconds, a couple of names quickly. Eric Tillman, Glenn Suter says Warren Moon. Do you have a list, and are those two names on the list? Very quickly.
I have a list. It's a long list right now. Anybody with credible backgrounds like those two, I'm sure would be on a long list, but there's a lot more. And as we go through the process, we'll cut the list down and start some interviews.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The comments there of the president and CEO of the Edmonton Eskimos, Rick Lawlisher. Joining me now from his home in Montreal is Danny Machocha. Danny, I'd like to begin by asking you about something that Rick talked about. You truly never being accepted by the Eskimo fan base there in that city. He said this week that you were tagged. How does that make you feel about your time in Edmonton?
Well, my time in Edmonton has been very positive. I think anytime you can get on an 8-year run and have the success that we had with the 3 Grey Cup appearances, winning 2, having had an opportunity to work with some outstanding players and people at the office, having had an opportunity to learn so much from Rick Lawlisher. It's been really a positive experience in every sense of the word. As far as not being accepted, I don't know if it's just the so-called minority or vocal minority, but there seemed to be a disconnect there, and I sensed that since day one, and it's unfortunate because, like I said, my family and I, we moved there, we made that home, we tried to be involved in the community, we did a lot of work with the Stollery Hospital, so, but I enjoyed my stay there. Unfortunately, it seemed like it wasn't a good marriage for whatever the case may be, and it still mystifies me to this day. But like I said, the run was a positive one. I enjoyed it, and I'm going to be better for it.
You were general manager there for well under 2 seasons. Do you think the Eskimos gave you a fair chance to succeed in that position?
Well, I mean, the first year we went 9-9. It was a year that it was a year in transition, being in the general manager position and hiring a new head coach and Richie Hall and a new staff, and trying to create an identity as far as the football program was concerned. So, again, I'd rather look at the positives, and there were just so many that outweigh, the so-called negative. But at the end of the day, they felt they had to make a move, one that I truly respect and try to understand. Having said that, I wish them nothing but the best, and we're all pulling for the Eskimos here in 2010.
Opportunity will come knocking again for you in this league, no doubt, very soon. So in hindsight, based on this experience, do you think you're a better coach or a GM?
I think when I take a look at my situation, I've always been a coach, even since I've been out of coaching as a general manager. When I watch film, I watch it as a coach. That's my background, especially on the offensive side of the ball. That's what I know. That's what I've been doing probably for the last 13, 14 years. And there's probably a strong possibility that might be a role that I may occupy in the future. Having said that, I've learned both ends of it, negotiating contract, executing trades. So I had an opportunity to learn that side of the business, and that's only going to help me down the road.
Danny, thank you so much for doing this. Enjoy some time off with your family.
Will do, and thank you, and all the best.
Meanwhile, at Commonwealth Stadium, Ron Este being added to the Wall of Honor at Commonwealth Stadium, but his Eskimos are down 19-7 to Toronto. Welcome back. Prior to kickoff tonight, Zach Maxwell was the Scotiabank Kid Captain. He was able to get up close with the Argos and the Eskimos and help out with a coin toss. Be sure to enter your child at ScotiaKidCaptain.com.
Gibson's Finest CFL Players of the Week is brought to you by Gibson's Finest Canadian Whiskey. Your whiskey, your way.
And here are your Players of the Week. Arland Bruce, how about that, Jock? 16 catches, 272 yards, not bad.
Not bad at all.
Chris Thompson, 2 picks for the Eskimos. Luka Kanji, 7 field goals, and Andy Fantuz had a pretty decent day last week with 100 yards receiving against Hamilton. Here are your stats. Halftime of this ball game you're watching here on Friday Night Football, brought to you by Tim Hortons. Here's Chris Schultz. Schulte.
Number 1, 129 yards rushing the football. Outstanding, but very quietly, Cleo Lemon is putting together his best game so far as an Argonaut.
Certainly is. Corey Boyd certainly is the story. This is game 2 of our Friday night doubleheader. Game 1 had a rematch of the Grey Cup and that Week 1 Canada Day Classic between Saskatchewan and Montreal. Kate Burness is here to tell us about that. Hi, Kate.
Thank you. Hi, Dave. Gentlemen. And if that game was anything like that game in Week 1, we were in for a treat. But the Montreal Alouettes may have lost their starting QB in the process. Anthony Calvillo went out with a dislocated index finger on his throwing hand. His status for next week not yet known. Meanwhile, to the game, late in the second quarter, Luka Kanji misses from 42 yards out. Tim Maypray brings it out. He finds some running room. 118 yards later, he has got a touchdown. The Owls lead Saskatchewan 24-10 at half. Early in the fourth quarter, 27-16 Owls. Durant goes to the end zone for Wes Cates. He hauls it in, brings the Riders within 4. Late in the fourth, Riders within 2, deep in their own end of field. Durant in trouble, sacked in the end zone for a safety. Montreal goes on to win it 30-26. So those stories and much, much more coming up on SportsCenter with myself and Brent Wallace. After, of course, the game you are currently watching, the Argos and the Eskimos.
Eskimos were favored tonight, but they're down by 12 as we get set for the second half. The Argos' 3 wins are all come from behind victories in the fourth quarter. Let's see how Cleo Lemon and company handle a lead heading into the second half.
What a half for Corey Boyd. A touchdown catch, a touchdown run. He's been chewing it up, and when I talked to every Edmonton defender yesterday in the walkthrough, they said he was the key. We've got to stop Corey Boyd. Well, they haven't been able to do it, not in that first half.
Marky Whitlock had a strong first half with 77 yards on the ground, and yet he was overshadowed by his adversary on the Argos sidelines. Edmonton will get the ball first here in the second half as Borum kicks it off. Skylar Green from a 6. Breaks one tackle and then gets hit and brought down at the 27. Let's check Ricky Ray's numbers through 30 minutes.
13 of 19, 111 yards, has not been able to go deep. That was something that he's had success with Fred Stamps and Kelly Campbell, but that secondary for the Argos making Ricky Ray dump the football off, so the numbers not on pace for 300.
Eskimos with a dozen plays of 30 yards or more in the air this year, but none in the first half. Long out, and there's quick contact as Byron Parker closed down on Kelly Campbell.
Byron Parker is bigger this year. He's just, he looks it. Yeah, he's got in the weight room, and he looks bigger, stronger, but hasn't lost that great instinct and great speed that he possesses out there on that corner, and he just lowered the boom right here.
Held Campbell to 6, so it's 2nd and 4. And Ray looks back Campbell's way, and he gets brought down. Looked like short of the first down. We'll see what forward progress is. Good work there by Jason Pottinger, and help from his friends to make Richie Hall survey the situation, and may have to decide on a gamble here on 3rd and a yard.
Yeah, and it looks like it's just on the inside of a yard, so look like the Edmonton Eskimos might be sending out the big team.
They do, including Jared Zabransky, who comes in on Eskimo short yardage situations. So it is 3rd and less than a yard. And Zabransky with a flag down and not much of a push behind Aaron Fiacconi, Patrick Kabongo, Kyle Koch, and that Eskimo offensive line.
They didn't need much, but the Argos lined up offside. Won't matter anyway. Usually what happens in these cases.
Offside, Toronto. 5-yard penalty results in the first down.
And often it's not movement, but it's that they are lining up with their hand inside that yard. That hand right there might be the culprit.
So it is an Eskimo first down. Ray back in and gives it to Whitlock, and not much there as he's tossed down by Ronald Flemons, and we check in again with Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Richie Hall said at the half that he was happy with the way the offense was moving the ball, but they have to finish off drives. Defensively, the players need to do their job plain and simple. They need to be more aggressive to the ball and get stops because they got their you-know-what kicked. On the other side of the sideline, Jim Barker said he was happy with the way his offense played. Obviously, if there weren't 2 drops, Cleo Lemon would have had a perfect half.
Well, Jim Barker was counting the same drops you were. Ray in trouble, spins off. Another flag, and Ricky Ray takes off and dives forward for what would be a first down, but that flag's in the typical holding area.
Well, and this was a 3-man rush from the Toronto Argonauts, Chris. Eric Taylor led the way, and boy, you have to admire this
Holding.
young man.
Edmonton, number 56. 10-yard penalty, repeats 2nd down.
Patrick Kabongo, the holding call.
Playing after, you mentioned earlier in the show, losing his father. And Eric Taylor just in 3-man pressure, 3-on-5. He is so determined tonight. He just flies up that middle and is tackled by Patrick Kabongo.
Now second and long. Ray underneath. Here's Stamps trying to kick it outside. And Byron Parker there to bring him down, but maybe a horse collar as the penalty flag flies.
It did look like he ducked Byron Parker at the end of the play and then forced Parker to grab him from behind.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness, horse collar tackle. Toronto, number 28. 15-yard penalty at the end of the play, automatic first down.
Well, and it's really the speed of Fred Stamps here that causes this problem, because he looked like Byron Parker had the angle on him. Now he grabs it and then lets go of it. That one's borderline, but they're going to be very sensitive. It doesn't matter if it's the jersey or the pads. That still can be a horse collar.
Was the jersey. Almost got a handful of dreadlocks, which was why Corey Boyd got rid of his. Big first down for the Eskimos, and that too tall for Kelly Campbell.
You know, in the way that Ricky Ray is distributing the football and using the sideline as much as he's had to use the sideline, that really sets up the Byron Parker play. Willie Middlebrooks is capable, but we've seen Byron Parker so many times. How many touchdowns did you say he had early, Chris?
7 in his career.
Yeah, and if you keep working those sidelines, sooner or later he's going to jump one.
Had 4 of them in 2006. Record held by 3 men, 2 Eskimos and Dickie Thornton at 8. There's Fred Stamps. And that is a big second down conversion for the Edmonton Eskimos.
Well, this is the guy that really has to step up for this team, and they're expecting, you know, forget 1,000-yard seasons, but coming into this year, many thought that Fred Stamps was capable of over 1,500 yards receiving. A couple of issues early on, a couple of drops, but a solid start to the year for Fred Stamps. They got to get him going. He's their big play receiver.
He's also their clutch receiver. 10 second down conversion catches for Stamps on the season. First down, Edmonton at the Argo 43. Right back to the air. And there's Nowacki with a catch in front of Byron Parker.
Boy, and it's a good thing that Andrew Nowacki came all the way back to the football, because if he even slows down for a second, he's going to get in trouble. But he comes back like this after running this kind of hook route. But comes all the way back to the ball.
Nowacki had only 4 catches coming into this game. He has 4 tonight. Eskimos driving. Draw play Whitlock. Markey Whitlock. Pottinger gives him a jolt. But it's down to the 25 and 5 more.
Edmonton Eskimos used draw and screen very effectively versus the BC Lions last week. Certainly that draw play was key to success on offense for R.Q. Whitlock and the Edmonton Eskimos.
Impressive drive. This is the 11th play for the Eskimos. And they keep it going. Ray looks for Stamps. Does he have it? Yes! What a catch by Fred Stamps. They'll mark him at the 1.
Boy, he had to really twist and turn to get his body around in the right position to have a chance to catch this football. It looked like it was thrown behind him. He got all turned around, but somehow found a way to get back. There he's the inside receiver. Now he gets inside position, but he wants to go back to the corner. Now the ball thrown back to the post. He flips his hips and shoulder around, and somehow he comes up with that catch.
That's a beauty. And it sets up 1st and goal with Jared Zabransky back in. For the Whitlock. Touchdown. Pottinger met him at the goal line. Whitlock would not be denied.
That's the drive the Edmonton Eskimos needed coming out in the second half. They were flat to start the game. Couldn't stop the run defensively. Were dumping the football underneath and couldn't continue to move the chains in the first half. They needed a spark. They get it from Fred Stamps on the big play and then finish it off with Arky Whitlock.
12-play drive, the extra point provided by Prefontaine as the home team gets back in it. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by TELUS, proud sponsor of the Canadian Football League. Well, that was an impressive drive. 12 plays, 83 yards. They take 6:56 off the clock. And Arky Whitlock has his 4th touchdown of the year.
You've heard the term must win. Well, that was the term must drive coming out of that second half. They had to find something, a spark to get them going. Arky Whitlock finishes it off, but it was the big play ability of Fred Stamps. Got this offense going.
A long time since the Argos got to touch the football. Here's Ryan Christian. And he'll be met just across the 25-yard line. Tim St. Pierre downfield first. Doubleheader tonight. Another one tomorrow night. First up, the Bombers and the Ticats. 1 Eastern, 4 Pacific. And immediately following that, we'll head to Vancouver, Stampeders and Lions.
The Twitter Bowl. Nick Lewis and some tweets the Lions didn't like.
And it's 7 Eastern for Winnipeg and Hamilton tomorrow. There's Brandon Rito, and he's got it up across midfield. So the first play from scrimmage for Cleo Lemon in the second half after an Eskimo touchdown drive is a big one.
Yeah, it's impressive because he was standing on the sideline for so long, half of that quarter. You've got to believe that he's going to cool down a little bit. He comes out there cold and throws a strike. Brandon Redu had 4 for 96 versus the Montreal Alouettes last week. He was one of those bright lights in the loss.
Argos do not have a 100-yard receiver in any game this year. Here's Corey Boyd, a 100-yard rusher for the 4th time in the first 6 weeks.
Cleo Lemon came into this game completing just 57% of his passes. That was low for all the starting quarterbacks. He was at 73.3%, and as Jim Barker mentioned, and I noticed as well, he had a few drops, so he could be 14 of 15 in that first half.
Now, this is the most impressive we have seen Cleo Lemon in the first 6 weeks as a CFL starter. And that one is incomplete, and that one probably in the drop category. Jason Goss closing quickly.
Looks like it was Ryan Christian on the outside. 3rd drop of the game, or that may even be 4th for the Toronto Argonauts, with a young receiving core as well. Really the only veteran being Jermaine Copeland in that group. They try to get it together. Cleo Lemon's numbers could be a lot better without those drops.
First punt for the Argos tonight. Jamie Borum will try and pin the Eskimos. And this one bouncing at the 14 and out, so no return. And Borum gets the job done. 6:34 left, 3rd quarter. Well, a reminder that Wendy's Kick for $1 Million is back. You can enter at tsn.ca/Wendy's and upsize your Wendy's combo and get a game card to get bonus entries. Not just a great promotion, but it's the reason Grant Shaw became a kicker. He was a junior football player, heard about the promotion, lined up 5 from 50, hit 4 of them. Some of his junior teammates told the coach he got a job as a place kicker. Ricky Ray drops the ball, gets up, and throws a strike to Jason Barnes, and they do allow those couple of extra yards after the catch to give Edmonton a first down.
You wonder if Ricky Ray can back up that great drive, and now he's starting to distribute the ball. Again, you're working the sideline a ton, but he had to go down and pick up that shotgun snap, and sitting on the sideline was Barnes. And was he touched when he went down?
Looked a lot like Middlebrooks touched him short of the first down. Argos are not challenging. Whitlock straight ahead, big room. Archie Whitlock still going across midfield. And finally dropped at the Toronto 45. Argos didn't like the way they tackled in Montreal, and they won't like that. A 40-yard run ripped off by Whitlock, and he got into the face of Kevin Iben.
Yeah, and the backside of these plays have been successful for Archie Whitlock because it's one-on-one with Kevin Iben, but pulling Calvin Armstrong comes outside and punches Kevin Iben to the out, and he just opens up a seam for Archie Whitlock on a real nice block.
And at the end of it, how about that? A headbutt. Iben and Whitlock. Grill to grill. Undetected by the official. First down at the Toronto 45. Ray airing it out, looking for Barnes. And Jason Barnes has it. Did you see that? Touchdown.
Discussion by the officials. I think he caught it. One overruled the other, and it will be an Edmonton touchdown. Lynn J. Shell was the deep player trying to help out underneath. He splits the two of them, goes down between his legs.
He didn't.
And it never touched the ground. Jason Barnes sticks with it. It doesn't touch the ground there. He turns, maintains possession in the end zone.
S.J. Green, you might have some competition for catch of the year. How'd he do that? Well, find out how you can create your own plays at NissanArmchairHero.com.
Jason Barnes, the lone receiver on the short side of the field, and has two deep defenders that he has to beat. He's going to run straight down the field. It's Middlebrooks on one side. Great outside position with Lynn J. Shell inside. He splits that double team and makes just a spectacular catch because that ball's batted around a little bit by the defenders between his legs, and he hangs on.
You could draw the play up, but you can't draw up that kind of catch.
Well, and Ricky Ray just decided, look, if they're going to cover that well, I've got to let my receivers have a chance, and that's what he did because the coverage was there. Jason Barnes just beat the coverage.
So an 83 and a 96-yard touchdown drive here in the third quarter, and this game has changed dramatically. Ryan Christian had to go back to get this one, and not much on the return. The Eskimos are suddenly fired up with just under 5 minutes to go here in a lopsided third quarter in favor of the home side.
Well, that's the one thing that the Argos defensively could lean on in that first half is that they were taking away the deep ball. And in perfect coverage there, they still couldn't take away the deep ball. Now the track meet's on. Can Cleo Lemon find an answer?
Starting at the Toronto 19. And the pass for Owens is incomplete. It would have been no gain on the play anyway. T.J. Hill in the neighborhood. And we have not seen the dominant force in the first half. Here in the second half, Corey Boyd.
Well, they haven't had many opportunities on the field. That's the first thing. Ricky Ray has dominated the time of possession in this quarter, and that's taken the ball out of the offense's hands for the Argos.
Second and 10. Bobby Klatt on the blitz. Lemon to Owens, the slant. Chad Owens, and there's a horse collar, and that's right out of the rule book. That horse collar.
Now you can save that piece of tape and just put it, or that DVD, and you can put it right in
And
to the
Larry,
league office.
Excuse me, Glenn. Larry Burdine is hurt. Kai Ellis, defensive end, not in the game. Injured.
Major
Greg
foul.
Peach.
Unnecessary roughness. Horse collar tackle. Edmonton, number 37. 15-yard penalty at the end of the play results in an automatic first down.
Corner Rod Williams in his second game in the Eskimos secondary, charged with the 15-yard penalty, and Burdine is hurt in that Eskimo defensive end position, very thin because of injury.
Yeah, he was jumping over the pile here, and it looked like after that, here comes Burdine right there. Right over the top of the pile, and that's the type of horse collar that can cause injury.
Yeah, that's not unlike the play that hurt Kenyon Rambo last year.
Like they're examining the ankle of Larry Burdine, or Oklahoma on the turf, and you're right, they are thin on the defensive line.
Greg Peach on the 9-game disabled list, and Kai Ellis out for this game. Burdine taking his spot. Now he's hurt.
Remember, Rod Davis in the linebacking core had a hamstring. Working on him. Avi Glatt was having to play, and they also lost the free safety in Salim Borat.
Well, speaking of outstanding Eskimo defensive linemen, they honored one here tonight, retro night in Edmonton, and the Swamp Dog being honored on the Wall of Honor. Ron Este, part of that dynasty team, won 6 Grey Cups. He and his family, and great to see him here. Great to see him healthy. He has had some health issues the last couple of years. Of course, 8 years an assistant coach with the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Ron Este, beloved here in Edmonton as one of the great players on the dynasty team, and now joining a very impressive group.
Well, and his nameplate right beside the great Warren Moon up there on the wall, and the first guy to come and congratulate him coming out of the tunnel, Dan Kepler.
Here's Corey Boyd trying to get outside, and Corey Boyd running hard again up to the 49-yard line. Dave Fennell was on that defensive line, and Ron Este, David Boone, James Parker, and Kepley behind, and what a ferocious front it was. Had 23 sacks one year. All-Canadian twice.
Well, the city of Edmonton had the label as City of Champions, and that 5 in a row was how that got started, and then the Oilers picked it up in the 80s.
2nd and 3. Play action fake. Lemon in trouble. Justin Cooper brings him down. And they'll call it grounding.
Yeah, they will. And there was no receiver close enough, and it did not cross the line of scrimmage.
The youngster out of the University of Manitoba, Justin Cooper, getting a chance because of the injury to Burdine, comes up and makes a big defensive play.
Look for a second that Cleo
There is no
Lemon.
infraction for intentional grounding. Number 89, as an eligible receiver, was in the area. It's an incomplete pass, 3rd down.
Well,
wow. Well, they're saying that Spencer Watt, who hustled back, got close enough. He was about 6-7 yards away.
He could have got it on the first hop.
Yeah, you see him here. He's deep down the field a little bit. He's about 20 yards down the field. Now, watch where the ball bounces here, and I really believe the Argos got away with one there. I mean, he comes back to within 6-7 yards.
Good play by the rookie to help bail out the quarterback. Is a punting situation, and here's Skylar Green. And he'll be tossed out by Josh Abrams in the Argo lineup on special teams.
Well, it's Friday night, and that means it's time for our Friday night troop salute. So I would like everyone to meet the HMCS Montreal and her crew. The home port is CFB Halifax, and her motto, "We stand on guard for thee." Seen here Tuesday on her way to the Arctic, part of Operation Nanook, an annual Canadian Forces joint exercise aimed at training for disaster and sovereignty patrols. Nanook begins today and wraps up August 26th, so good luck to Commander Bryson and his crew.
Ricky Ray's got a hot hand all of a sudden. Fred Stamps with the catch. And he's drilled back short of the 35-yard line.
That's also Nanook.
Got Operation Nanook going on here at Commonwealth, too.
He's trying. He has rallied. He's rallied the home team after a tough first half.
Big third quarter. Ricky Ray, 8 for 9. Back to work. Make it 9 for 10. Stamps a first down catch. Jolted by Willie Pyle, the safety. And Stamps felt that. And Fred Stamps now headed off. Right forearm. Took the brunt of that.
And that doesn't look good.
No, it doesn't.
He's in pain as he comes to the sideline. He was going to talk about how one deep ball completion can really loosen up a secondary. He takes a hard hit there from Willie Pyle and immediately sort of looked like he lost feeling in that right arm.
Second leading receiver in the CFL, gone to the sidelines. Whitlock on the ground. And Archie Whitlock has run well tonight. Across midfield, nosing into Argo territory.
5.8 yard average coming in, Chris. It just looks like he's increasing that in a big way. And I asked him yesterday, it seems to me you're getting more and more confidence every single time you're out there. And what do you give credit to for that? He said, because I'm blocking better. So, you know, I take care of blocking. And when I can block well in the passing game, it gives me confidence in the running game.
Season high for Whitlock, and now 3 straight 100-yard games against these Argos. And back in his hands again.
Archie Whitlock chewed up some big yards against the Toronto Argonauts in 2009. 259 and 3 touchdowns to be exact. Runs on instincts. He said there's running backs with better vision. There's running backs with better breakaway speed. But you can't really... My quickness is what I rely on.
In the Vikings camp with Adrian Peterson said, I had quicker feet than Peterson. Peterson faster with a remarkable work ethic, but Whitlock felt his feet were quicker, and he showed you some quick feet. What a third quarter for the Eskimos as they have taken the lead. Big third quarter for the Eskimos. Third quarter stats brought to you by Tim Hortons, proud sponsor of the CFL.
Both teams over 300 yards of offense, and a lot of them for the Eskimos coming in that third quarter. When you look at the time of possession, Argos had the edge in the first half, but it's really flip-flop now. The Edmonton Eskimos basically dominated that third quarter.
Remember, the Argos, all 3 wins have come when trailing after 3, but they didn't score in the second half last week. Outscored 34-0, outscored 14-0 already in the second half of this game.
Yeah, they have to go back to what was working in the first half for the Argos, and that's to get the ball to Corey Boyd and try and take advantage of some of these injuries that the Eskimos are trying to fight through right now. And there's been a bunch of them, including Fred Stamps, on offense. They've lost 3 starters on defense as well in this game.
And we're told they were working on his shoulder on the sidelines. Fontaine to kick it away. Bouncing down to the 20, and there's Chad Owens with it. And Owens brought down at the 23, Matt Bertrand, the fullback, leading the wave on punt cover. Well, Cleo Lemon's in familiar territory. One he might not have anticipated tonight when this game looked like the Argos had control at the half.
Well, they had control because they were controlling the line of scrimmage, and they were controlling it with Corey Boyd. Had a nice game plan with some play action sprinkled in, but boy, give full credit to the Edmonton Eskimos. They came out, got some drives offensively. That sparked their defense.
Gotta get Corey Boyd started again. Short gain to the 25. Adam Braidwood and Javi Glatt celebrating that stop of Boyd.
And here's what the Edmonton Eskimos are going to start to do, and that's to bring more players up into the box and try and stop Corey Boyd. So you look across there, there's a lot of green and gold. They're going to start to put their defensive backs in one-on-ones behind them and start to get some help on the run.
2nd and 9, here comes the pressure, quickly away, and a completion over the middle. There's Jermaine Copeland for a critical Argo first down.
Second play in a row. Jason Nugent, the safeties, come up into the line of scrimmage. Once again, he's doing that to try and force Cleo Lemon to make the read. He's going to come here on the blitz, and it's a perfect read by Lemon to see it and hit Copeland over the middle.
And now the Argos go no huddle to try and change the pace. 1st and 10. Corey Boyd straight ahead, and look at that collision.
You know, Corey Boyd in the first half ran over Salim Borat a couple of times, and he had to leave the game. And there's been some collisions for him and Jason Nugent already in this one. Nugent did that last week against the Lions.
And Richie Hall told us yesterday, Nugent more physical, likes to play downhill from his safety spot. And
that's the 3rd play in a row. They brought the safety down into the box to help out on Corey Boyd.
7 more for Boyd, 2nd and 3. Fake, and here's Spencer Watt with his first catch in the Canadian Football League out of Simon Fraser, 21-year-old, pressed into action because of a ratio issue as Chad Lucas had to be deleted tonight to make room for another import on defense.
3rd round pick, 18th overall for the Toronto Argonauts, and
the guy who played high school football around the corner from you?
Yes, just down at Windsor Secondary School, part of a couple of AA championships for the Windsor Dukes down there, and just down the block, can almost throw a football to his high school from my place.
Got his first 2nd down conversion catch. Lemon up top, and incomplete as he went back Spencer Watt's way. See if he had a deep threat. Feet got tangled, no flag.
Called one of his high school coaches to discuss what kind of a high school player he was, and said it was interesting that he didn't really start playing football until his senior year in high school, but he was such a smooth route runner. We saw a little example of that there. Pretty good coverage in the middle by Jason Nugent, but he showed he's a pretty smooth route runner on that post.
2nd and 10. The Argo 53 here. Flat off the edge, he's picked up, and that pass is intercepted. Jason Goss with the pick, and Jason Goss down the sidelines, dropped inside the 20. Argos looking for a flag. Jason Goss comes up with the interception.
Copeland right here is the intended target here for Cleo Lemon on an out route. He's going to get jammed by Lawrence Gordon, and this is a missed call by the officials, and I'll show you why. Gordon can jam if he stays square to the line like that. If his shoulders are turned like they are there, he cannot make contact on Copeland. He knocks him down. Copeland hits the turf, and that ball intercepted by Jason Goss because of it. A missed call by the official.
And a huge play, a 50-yard return, and here is Sobransky. Bootleg to the 5, to the cone, touchdown!
They want to get him in what's a hybrid form of the Wildcat formation, which is legal in the Canadian Football League now, to put Jared Sobransky in the game and have him as a straight, basically running threat. Sweep right, sweep left, play action to R.K. Whitlock, and he really had no intention of throwing that football. It was quarterback sweep to the left.
First career CFL touchdown for the hero of the 2007 Fiesta Bowl, Jared Sobransky. The left-footer Prefontaine adds the extra point as the Eskimos now lead by 9. Wendy's CFL on TSN. Friday Night Football is brought to you in part by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. And by Rona, proud sponsor of the Canadian Football League. Rona, doing it right.
Big game for Archie Whitlock tonight. And that's how Jared Zabransky got in the end zone.
Here comes Ryan Christian on the return. And he'll be taken down at the 30-yard line by Lawrence Gordon. Controversial on that interception. And there's Jared Zabransky.
When your running back has over 100 yards rushing, then it's going to influence the defenders. Jordan Younger, the man I circled to your left, is going to bite on Archie Whitlock and take a big chunk. He comes all the way inside, no one left in containment, and Jared Zabransky outside. And here's that pass interference that wasn't called. And that's a missed call by the official. You can't make contact if your body's turned like that.
And it becomes the TSN turning point, unless the Argonauts can change the direction of this game. Andre Coleman with a big stop there on Corey Boyd.
Well, it really is, because it was a timing route for Cleo Lemon, and he knows it. He went right over to the officials and went and talked to them. They didn't see it. Jim Barker, the head coach, tried to discuss it with the officials, but for the officials, they're human too. Sometimes they miss calls, and that was a missed call, because that was pass interference by Lawrence Gordon.
24 straight points for Edmonton. Montreal at 34 straight against the Argos last week. Here's Rito, and he'll plow his way across the 40 at a first down. But there is still time. The Argos have played well tonight. They haven't had anything to show for the second half yet. But the game's still within reach.
Oh, yeah, with lots and lots of time. And the most important thing is to try and exercise the demons of a missed call and a quick touchdown by the Edmonton Eskimos, and just come back with some points. Doesn't even have to be a major. Come back with some points to get that bad thought out of your mind.
First and 10 out of a double tight end, and there's Corey Boyd. TJ Hill trying to bring him down, but Boyd fights his way for a first down. And if Hill doesn't stay with him, Corey Boyd might still be running.
Starts in the backfield, works himself out. Pretty much every single offense in the CFL has this similar play, just back releasing. TJ Hill in the chase, and he's the first tackler, and as I mentioned, Corey Boyd's record of not going down by the first tackler remains intact.
5 catches coming in, 4 tonight for 47, and a touchdown, and back in his hands. Across midfield to the Edmonton 53.
Jim Barker and the coaching staff and Corey Boyd have talked so much about how thankful he is for his opportunity. At 25, he did have a game dressed in the National Football League, so he won't be considered in the CFL a rookie. But if
so
he was, he'd be.
So we can't give him the award right now.
No, because I was about to. If it was up to me.
2nd and 6. Fake to Boyd. And there's Copeland's got the first down with straight arm on Jason Goss. And the Argos putting together a drive.
You know, and Jamie Elizondo, the offensive coordinator for the Argos, really doesn't have to change much up. And again, they want to make sure that Cleo Lemon doesn't come out of his comfort zone here and ask him to do things that he might not be ready to do yet, which is just straight drop back. So the offensive game plan remains pretty similar. Little Corey Boyd, and switch it up with that little play out to the flat for Jermaine Copeland.
Already a season high for Cleo Lemon, 251 yards passing. Boyd again, a little sidestep at the line of scrimmage and down to the 37.
Jamie Elizondo, I mentioned in his first year as the offensive coordinator in Toronto, he did have some time with the Montreal Alouettes back in 07. And his last stop was in Syracuse. He's coached for about 9 years in the NCAA. I had a nice, real long meeting with him before camps began and what his philosophy was. He knew he would have young quarterbacks, so it was going to take time, and he had to do it by taking little steps. I like what you're seeing out here from the Argos offensively.
Big play here, 2nd and 6. Close to field goal range. That one, jump ball. Mike Bradwell, the intended target. Looking for his first catch of the year. Drive stalls. And now Grant Shaw will come on.
Well, now Elizondo is going to have to come up in key plays the rest of this game with an answer for blitz, because Maurice Lloyd and Javi Glatt there, they show it and they bring it. And that's what's happened in this third and fourth quarter for the Edmonton Eskimos defensively. Now, Elizondo's got to find an answer to that.
Tough game for the rookie kicker who's done so well. Needs one here, and he's got it. 45-yarder for Grant Shaw. It makes it a one-score game. And a reminder, TSN's live coverage of all 4 rounds of the 2010 PGA Championship begins Thursday with opening round action from Whistling Straits. Getting underway at 1 Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. Tiger's last chance to win a major this year, and based on his play in a couple of rounds at Bridgestone, yikes.
I think he's got to go back to Vegas.
You have to bring your winning ticket to the media center on the west side stadium concourse. Good luck to all of you.
Eskimos now with a 6-point lead. Kelly Campbell on the return, and he is brought down. Here's Matt Black with a good downfield play for the Argos as we check in with Jermaine Franklin.
Thanks, Chris. Fred Stamps is out for the rest of the game with a shoulder injury. The exact nature of that injury is not yet known, but I can tell you this: he was in considerable pain until the trainers laid him down on the table and did what looked like they popped it back in, and then a sense of relief came over his face. So it looks pretty serious. He is out for the rest of the game.
One of the most dangerous weapons in the Canadian Football League. Not at Ricky Ray's disposal here in the last 7 minutes. Quarterback draw. Look at Ricky Ray, high step. How do you like that? Across the 40 for Ricky Ray, and a 20-yard gain, his longest of the year.
He used a decoy on the play, Kelly Campbell, to come out on this bubble screen in this direction. So the defense was distracted because Kelly Campbell made such a big play last week against the Lions on that very similar deal. So now the linebackers widen a little bit with Kelly Campbell opening up a lane, and then you gotta love the effort from Ricky Ray at the end of it.
So both teams have had solid ground attacks tonight. Argos thought there was some early movement. There's the quick feed of Whitlock again as he jukes his way up to the 48. Let's take another look at what happened in the third quarter to Fred Stamps.
Across the middle, and Willie Miles stepped up. He's holding his arm. Jermaine Franklin talking about his shoulder, and they tried to put it back in place right with him on the stretcher. The playmaker in the locker room now. They'll move Jason Barnes inside a little bit more.
Willie Pyle in the Argo defense looking for a stop on 2nd and 5. Pressure underneath, flag, and a penalty. And was that a low hit on Ricky Ray or a hold? It is a hold against Edmonton.
Penalty that the Toronto Argonauts will decline.
Holding. Edmonton, number 51. Penalties declined. 3rd down.
So Aaron Fiacone, the center, takes the flag.
Jeremy Parquet on the outside, the right tackle. Getting in a setup inside, and they both had their hands all over defenders, and you could have called either one. And Kyle Koch on the inside. Jeremy Parquet tackle.
Prefontaine drills that, backpedaling inside his 10 is Owens. Now you'll look for a crease. None there. Good downfield cover. TJ Hill was down in a hurry along with Chris Chinsky. Long field for Cleo Lemon.
If he's going to have a breakout game, now's the time. When you look at that total for Cleo Lemon passing, that's his best game so far in yardage in the Canadian Football League. Is only 200 game prior to this was versus BC a couple of weeks ago. But he's got a chance to take the lead and lots of time to do it.
Under 4.5 minutes to go. Corey Boyd puts another dent in that Eskimo defense. Larry Burdine back in on the tackle. He left earlier in the game with a leg injury, but is back in active duty. 4 for Boyd. Under 4 to go.
Adam Braidwood comes out in this case, and Tim St. Pierre is going in.
Six-pack of receivers. 2nd and 6. Looking for Owens. What a catch! Jason Nugent with the hit, but somehow Chad Owens pulled that off the shoelaces.
Well, you can see Toronto now is starting to anticipate the blitz, and when you get that quick blitz, the way to try and beat it is inside move and get there quickly. What a catch to just hang on off his shoe tops after the push from Chris Thompson.
Well, for Owens, Chris Thompson leading the league in interceptions with 5. Corey Boyd, and not much there this time. Brought down at Javi Glatt and Burdine converging on CB3. 3 minutes to go. And we'll be back with what could be an interesting finish. Our game story is brought to you by Mr. Lube.
I thought last year was the year of the running back. Boy, these two have really put on a show. Corey Boyd, R.Q. Whitlock. The Edmonton Eskimos with a big third quarter. Got some help from Fred Stamps and some big plays made in this football game, and lots of time left. Toronto Argonauts are going to anticipate blitz here. Edmonton in the second half, every time they've been in second down, they brought pressure.
Remember, all 3 of the Argo wins this season have come with fourth quarter comebacks. Second down, and the ball up for grabs. Unbelievable tip catch. That's an Argo bounce. And Jermaine Copeland has a first down, and he's as wide-eyed as anybody.
Well, this is how the whole terminology was invented right here. The Argo bounce for Cleo Lemon. Inside cut that Javi Glatt gets his hands on, and it bounces around Lawrence Gordon. A little bit of, he think I went through both hands there. 1, 2, and right into the hands of Copeland.
Thank you very much, he says. 11 yards. A key first down. Drive continues at the 46. Corey Boyd pounds to the 52.
It is retro. Edmonton Eskimos wearing their retro uniforms from the 70s, and nothing screams 70s more than linebacker Dan Kepley.
He sends in the defensive calls from Richie Hall. Looking for a stop here. This Argo offense has been a lot more potent tonight.
They come.
Big to Boyd. Mike Bradwell the catch, and a big tackle there by Chris Thompson, short of the first down, and now Jim Barker faces 3rd and 2.
And 2:07 is right on that bubble time as to whether or not you go for it here with your thinking this is your last chance, and it looks like Jim Barker is going to do just that, leaving Cleo Lemon out there. You know, if he has 240, you probably kick this away, try and get your defense to get you a 2 and out, but you're right in that bubble time.
Argo's trying to keep it alive here with under 2 minutes to go. 3rd and 2. Play fake. Jeff Johnson's got the ball and the first down. And a little bit of a bobble, it seemed, but Jeff Johnson made no mistake.
Well, bobble, because what Cleo Lemon was looking at, and this ball's a little low, is he's looking at this many players. I mean, look at the box up here, 9 out of 12, and Cleo Lemon knows that they're coming after him. So he's backing out of there, trying to retreat a little bit, ball a little low, and what a catch. Jeff Johnson.
Clutch for Jeff Johnson in his 175th game as an Argonaut. 8 different receiver tonight. And there's another completion. And Copeland trying to push his way close to that first down stick. Look like he'll come up just under a yard short.
How about Cleo Lemon's performance here tonight? I mean, Chris Schultz talked about it just before we kicked off on the panel, saying that sooner or later, we've got to see him move the ball through the air. Jim Barker's going to be patient. He said that, and he's sticking with it. He's pushing 300 for the first time in his CFL career, and he's poised to put his team ahead.
And the one question Jim Barker will not be asked next week is who your starting quarterback is.
That was interesting. For one, for people to ask, I don't think was out of the realm. I mean, that was a quarterback that, yes, was managing the game, but it wasn't the thought of, do you get rid of him? It was, at what point is he going to break out? Jim Barker just trying to say, just be patient. He even admitted he was a little too aggressive with the media, but bottom line being, he's got a winning record, and he likes his intangibles.
And this Eskimo defense leads in 7 of 25 categories. There's Boyd again, pounding down to the 35, and they can keep giving the ball to Corey Boyd because there's still 1:21 to go.
Yeah, you run the offense still. I mean, you have a chance to just continue to run the offense and put yourself down inside the 20-yard line. You get inside that red zone, then you could throw to the end zone in one play. Jamie Elizondo doesn't have to get out of it just yet.
Eskimos, precarious 6-point lead now. A pump, and Lemon putting it up, maybe up for grabs, and it is picked off. Jason Goss has another. There is a flag in that Eskimo secondary.
There's a flag down.
And this time the Argos may get the flag they were looking for. Or will they?
Signal against the Eskimos.
They're marching it off.
Forward pass interference. Edmonton. Penalty results in a first down.
So one interception when no flag was tossed. This time an interception negated by a penalty flag.
Well, let's show you the play, and this time I think the Edmonton Eskimos might have an argument. Go ahead and run it, guys, and stop it right here. That contact looked pretty good to me. I think it was Javi Glass.
The first down, play fake to Boyd, looking in the end zone. Brandon Rideau can't reach it. Whoa. And they'll skid out with Chris Thompson in the chase position. Rideau had a step.
Let's go back to that interference call, because I think Eskimos and their fans, go ahead and run it, and then I'll show you where to freeze the guys right there. See, that contact right there looks clean to me, and that the shoulder pads of the Edmonton defender are square to the line of scrimmage, which is allowed. Ball's not in the air there. Now, unless there was a tug down the field, and that could have been the call because the flag came out later. But the contact looked clean.
Into the final minute. 2nd and 10 at the Edmonton 16. Pressure. Lemon into the end zone, and another flag. Lawrence Gordon on Bradwell.
Well, I'm just impressed with Cleo Lemon's composure in this situation.
Forward pass interference. Edmonton, number 19. Foul was in the end zone, results in an automatic first down on the 1.
Well, Lawrence Gordon, we thought, should have drawn a flag earlier in this quarter. He gets a big one right now.
Mike Bradwell went inside. And Gordon, go ahead and run it here, guys. Bradwell, the inside receiver, right? Stop it now. There's the contact. Now, was there a pull?
On the goal line, first push. No signal. And it's going to be 2nd and goal from the 1.
Take another look. There's Mike Bradwell right there. Contact coming in. Contact there. Now, was there a grab? Tough to see. We were a little far back there, but if he pulled the jersey going to the, it had to be that. We couldn't see it from our angle, but the contact looked fine. Some interesting pass interference calls in this game tonight.
And non-calls.
Yes.
14th play of the drive. Trying to punch it in. Corey Boyd, touchdown. His 3rd of the game. And the Argos are a convert away from the lead with 22.8 seconds on the clock.
Toronto Argonauts 3-0 when trailing after 3 quarters, and they all have the lead now. And how about the drive and the composure of Cleo Lemon to put 15 plays together, one after another, some help with a couple of flags, a couple of pass interference calls. But when he dodged Dario Romero there, he gave himself a chance to get that PI call. And Corey Boyd, 3rd touchdown of the night.
A 94-yard touchdown drive. Penalty aided. Corey Boyd's 3rd touchdown. Larry Burdine has gone down, so he's getting attention prior to the convert that would break the tie. If the Argos would pull this out, it'd be the 4th time they have trailed in the 3rd quarter after 3 and 1. Last year, that only happened 8 times all year. It would be the 8th time already this season, and the Argos would have 4 of them. But this game's not done.
No.
Grant Shaw needs to convert here, and the Eskimos will still have some time to try and break, or to answer back.
Corey Boyd is just trying to get the sweat out of his eyes right now. It has been some sort of hard-working night for him, and Archie Whitlock on the other side. The running backs tonight have really put on a show.
On his 25th birthday, Corey Boyd has been spectacular. For the lead, and it is through. 29-28. Cleo Lemon and the Argonauts. And now does Ricky Ray have one last response for Edmonton.
And Cleo Lemon 8 yards away from his first 300-yard passing game in the Canadian Football League. 23 of 34, has a touchdown, and his only interception, the only blemish, was the non-call of pass interference on Jermaine Copeland. So people have been looking for the breakout game. They may just have witnessed the breakout game for Cleo Lemon. Now, can the defense hold for 22.8 seconds? And if they do hold for the 4th time this season, when Corey Boyd gets 100 yards rushing, which he has tonight, he has 163, the Argos win. But 22.8 is still time.
Did anyone anticipate that a 3rd of the way through, the double blue could be 4-2 and the Edmonton Eskimos could be 1-5? Barring something dramatic by Edmonton, that'll be the records of the 2 teams for the first 3rd of the season. But Kelly Campbell trying to provide some field position and good cover. 16.1 seconds left for Ricky Ray, and he doesn't have Fred Stamps, one of his 2 lethal deep threats.
I would guess he's got 3 plays possible. He's going to need a big chunk. One of the ways he did that last week was to do a swing screen to Kelly Campbell. He does have him in the lineup. He doesn't have Fred Stamps, but he's going to need at one point here a big chunk.
And they need around 40 yards to get into Prefontaine range. That one for Barnes through his fingertips, incomplete. And now 11.5 on the clock. Lowest scoring team in the fourth quarter this season, the Eskimos. They do have one touchdown tonight, the run by Zabransky.
Well, what a third quarter. I mean, the momentum swings in this game have been very steep for Richie Hall and for Jim Barker. The Argos had control in the first half. The Eskimos in the third quarter.
Ray loading it up. And at midfield. Any flag? Boy, that Eskimo bench explodes, but no flag on the play intended for Jason Barnes.
Well, with some of the calls that have been close, that have gone against Edmonton, I think the Eskimo bench thought that this was close enough. Little contact made by Willie Middlebrooks. You know my opinion on all of these. With a little pushing and shoving, you should let the players determine the outcome. But if you're throwing the flags one way, they're looking for consistency, and that's why Edmonton's so upset right now.
Knowing you, the only one you would have called is the one they didn't.
That's right.
Here it is, last gasp. Ray loads and fires deep. Kelly Campbell's got it. Flips it away. It's still alive. Barnes across. There's Ray again. Got a long way to go.
Still alive.
And they're going the wrong way. But they still have it. Or do they? No, this one's over. And the Toronto Argonauts have won in the Western Division on the road for the first time in 10 tries. Their last win in the West, November 3rd, 2007 in Regina. But Jim Barker and his Argos' remarkable early season story continues here tonight with a comeback win and Cleo Lemon's best performance in his early CFL career. Time now for the TSN Turning Point. There were a few.
Well, and it was the 15-play drive Cleo Lemon put together, and on a second down in the key situation, the Argo bounce fell into Jermaine Copeland's hands. That led to the Corey Boyd touchdown, and the convert after that put the Argos ahead to stay.
The TSN Turning Point brought to you by Wendy's Baconator, the official hamburger of the CFL. Well, it had lots in it tonight, and Corey Boyd was front and center. Number 3 with 3 touchdowns, including the game winner. Cleo Lemon, as Schultze anticipated, has his breakthrough game, and Toronto's 4-2, and more woe in Eskimo land as they fall to 1-5. 20-28, Jim Barker celebrates another win for the Argos. So long, everybody.